sector value chain in the country as well as the international front. And of course, it's always live on Asasi Radio 99.5. Energy 101 is proudly brought to you kind courtesy of GOIL. GOIL, good energy, GOIL Yenarayadia. It is also brought to you in association with Ghana Shippers Authority. Ghana Shippers Authority providing shipping solutions. Now, last week, the national oil company GNPC confirmed the acquisition of 7% of Cosmos Energy's stake to increase its offshore commercial interests. The GNPC says falls in line with its desire to increase its interest in offshore producing blocks. But there have been some controversy surrounding the acquisition. Tonight on Energy 101, CEO of the GNPC, Dr. KK Sapong, speaks on some of the controversies surrounding the latest transaction. We'll be right back. And thank you so much for making time on this week's edition of Energy 101. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. We are Faye. Now let's bring you some interesting tidbits in the world of energy. The Vice President of Guyana, Bharat Jagdeo, has criticized a call by the International Energy Agency, IEA, for economists to halt fresh oil, gas and coal fields investment. Mr. Jagdeo says the move will create an unfair an unfair monopoly for already developed oil-producing countries and ruin the economies of new oil-producing nations. Some statistics have indicated that fossil fuels will still provide 60% of the world's energy demands by the year 2040. However, the pattern of use is expected to change, moving away from fossils to greener or renewable energy. Bharat Jagdeo said the world will continue to utilize fossil fuel sources and emphasize the need for new oil-producing nations to be part of the supply chain. He was interacting with Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, the Vice President, at the beginning of his 3-day visit to Ghana.
The call of the IEA and the IPCC that we must not do any exploration in the fossil fuel industry nor develop any asset. Right. And my point was, if we do that in the face of continuing demand for fossil fuel, what we're effectively doing is locking in a monopoly, a $4 trillion monopoly for the countries that have developed oil and gas sectors and really don't need to spend much more on exploration or development of new assets. So we're going to give them a monopoly, because right now, in spite of all the pledges surrounding net zero emissions, if you look at the three major sources of emissions, burning fossil fuel for energy, for transport, and for deforestation and land use, which cause more than 80% of the emissions. If you look at the mitigation options, in none of the three areas are the pledges adequate or the initiatives enough to decarbonize the world and achieve net zero. And then on the demand management side, there's very little of that. So if demand is growing and the renewables are not coming in at the pace to keep up with the demand. You're going to need fossil fuel for a while to come.
So that was Bharat Jagdeo, the Vice President of Guyana. Let's get some more tidbits in the world of energy.
We're going to give them a monopoly because right now, in spite of all the pledges surrounding net zero emissions, if you look at the three major sources of emissions, burning fossil fuel for energy, for transport, and for deforestation and land use, which cause more than 80% of the emissions. If you look at the mitigation options, in none of the three areas are the pledges adequate or the initiatives enough to decarbonize the world and achieve net zero. And then on the demand management side, there's very little of that. So if demand is growing and the renewables are not coming in at the pace to keep up with the demand, you're going to need fossil fuel for a while to come.
Bharat Jagdeo is the Vice President of Guyana. On his part, Ghana's Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia says even though he supports the net zero target that has been set for carbon emissions to help slow down the rate at which the world's climate is changing, the world is going to need fossil fuel over the next 20 years.
Of course, net zero is something that we are all very, very interested in and very supportive of. And so we want to have that as a goal down the road. But if you lock in and nobody has to produce, then you have restricted supply in the face of increase in demand. There's only one way for price, which is up, and that will cripple a lot of our economies with high fuel prices. You're already seeing some of what is happening now. You are already at 80. We've got to nuance it, and we don't want people to get up the hill and take out the ladder and we can't climb, and that is essentially some of what is happening. And we have to look at how we transition. That transition is not going to be overnight. There's still going to be a demand maybe over the next 25 to 30 years. That is the reality.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Senyo Hosi, has called on the government to rationalize its taxes in the wake of the hikes in prices of petroleum products. According to him, this is one of the major factors that can help cushion consumers whenever prices of crude oil surges on the international market. Over the years, crude world oil prices as well as high taxes have increased fuel prices at the pumps in the downstream petroleum sector. Commenting on the development, CEO of Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Senyo Hosi, advised the government to consider hedging that supports consumers in these trying times.
The key thing here is your exchange rate. It's one of the ways you can influence your prices. The other one is for you to rationalize your taxes. There's a lot of inefficiency in our tax structure today. I can walk us through and show almost every inefficiency in that, in which in itself could save us some 10% savings. You also look at our market structures in itself, and you realize that we can optimize our supply chain and take hedge positions that can help us. We are a net exporter of oil, meaning we make income when we export and prices go up and we export crude. But we take a lot of stress on the downstream side when it has to do with the purchase or the distribution of petroleum products. There's a possibility of hedging against cash settlements. So if government says that, I think it will be unsustainable for us when prices go beyond $500 per metric ton or crude prices go beyond $60 per metric ton on the downstream sides. We can actually take a hedge option. You take an option, and anytime prices go up, your counterparties will give you the money. When they give you the money, you also reduce your taxes, so you also don't lose on the tax front.
That was the CEO of Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Senyo Hosi. The opposition National Democratic Congress, NDC, has attributed the persistent hikes in fuel prices to what they call the unnecessary and draconian tax measures by the economic management team. The National Communications Officer of the party, Sami Jemfi, who addressed a press conference this afternoon, called for the immediate scrapping of some taxes on the petroleum price built up to ease the burden on consumers. He said that the President Akufo-Addo's approval for 2 months removal of the price stabilization and recovery levies on petrol, diesel and LPG is inadequate and not the way to go.
We wish to call on the Akufo-Addo Bawumia NPP government to scrap some of the unnecessary taxes they have heaped on the price build-up of petroleum products so as to drastically reduce same. We hold the view that the 2-month suspension or zero rating of the stabilization and recovery levy of 14 pesos and 16 pesos per litre of diesel and petrol respectively is wholly inadequate, insufficient, and cannot bring about any significant reduction in the current prices of fuel products. In fact, given the fact that the price of a gallon of diesel and petrol has increased by close to 10 Ghana cedis in this year 2021 alone, it is an insult to the sensibilities of suffering Ghanaians for government to offer to reduce the price of fuel by a paltry 63 pesos, which is the net effect of the zero rating of the stabilization and recovery levy government has announced. We therefore wish to call on the Akufo-Addo Bawumia NPP government to, as a matter of urgency, scrap 1, the special petroleum tax of 46 pesos on a litre of diesel and petrol. It will be recalled that the special petroleum tax was introduced by the ex-Wal NDC Mahama administration sometime in 2016 when crude oil export price fell far below government's budgetary projections. The objective was to shore up government revenue for development purposes. But given the fact that crude oil prices have increased from below $40 to over $80 per barrel in recent time, far above government's budgetary projection of $54 per barrel, it is untenable for government to still maintain this tax, the special petroleum tax on petroleum products now, and same should be scrapped without further delay.
He also accused the NPP government of being indifferent at the issue of product losses that had rocked the Tema oil refinery recently.
Even in the energy sector, ladies and gentlemen, the corrupt Akufo-Addo Bawumia administration continued to plunder the assets of state-owned enterprises such as the Tema oil refinery, Bost, GNPC, among others. I'm sure you have heard about the brazen and unprecedented thievery that is going on at Tor currently, where 105,927 liters of gas oil, 18 drums of electrical cables, and other valuable assets worth 42 million Ghana cedis, that is 420 billion cedis, have all vanished into thin air. Yet, this corrupt and wasteful government continues to demand more revenue from suffering Ghanaians through the imposition of draconian taxes on prices of fuel, with its ripple effects on cost of living.
That was the National Communications Officer of the NDC, Sami Jemfi. A ranking member on Parliament's Mines and Energy Committee, John Jinapo, has expressed his disappointment in the government for allowing consumers to bear the brunt of hikes in prices of petroleum products. According to him, the government is just being insensitive to consumers for making them pay more, though the implementation of the price stabilization and recovery levy. Although the NPA recently scrapped the levies on petrol, diesel and LPG to cushion consumers, John Jinapo believes the intervention leaves much to be desired. He has been speaking on the back of recent threats by the GPRTU and LPG Marketers Association to increase lorry fares and LPG prices respectively.
Consumers have been paying all this while, and the extent that today crude oil is about $80 per barrel. There are two things. When crude oil moves up, our oil revenues also move up because we are a net exporter. We are not a net importer of oil. Let me put that on record. We are a net exporter of oil. So when crude oil prices go up, Ghana and its citizens must benefit from that increment. They must not suffer. So when crude oil prices are going up, it means that from our current and participating interest and also from royalties and all that, our revenues are going very high. So why should Ghanaians suffer when crude oil prices are going very high. Also, Ghanaians have been paying all this while into the price and stabilization levy. It's for two things: to subsidize what we give to the fishermen, premix fuel, and also to sell something for periods like this so that Ghanaians can be cushioned. So the broader question is, why are we not doing this? I mean, who is there from the MPA? Because consumers ought to be cushioned. They can't continue to suffer.
That was a ranking member on Parliament's Mines and Energy Committee, John Jinapo. Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Puku-Prempeh has indicated that construction works for the Polugu Dam will soon commence in the coming days. The $993 million project, which was funded solely by the government, was designed as a multi-purpose dam to address irrigation, hydropower generation and flood control issues in the upper regions. However, since October last year, works have halted due to heavy rains and floods. Speaking at the 7th Ghana Renewable Energy Fair 2021, which opened in Accra, the Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Puku-Prempeh said a series of engagements has ensued between himself and the Finance Minister for the release of funds to complete the project.
I am happy to announce that the construction of the Polugu multi-purpose power plant comprise also an additional 50 megawatt solar panel for the VR. This project is ongoing, and just yesterday I met the Ministry of Finance to ensure that we pay the contractors to continue with this project. The project is strategic, and when completed will add another golden feather in VR's renewable energy portfolio and open up the entire multi-region of Ghana to accelerated economic development. We are committed and will ensure the timely completion of this project.
The Ministry of Energy says it will soon roll out new directives to guide existing and new projects within its private and public sector to help boost the renewable energy industry. According to the ministry, such interventions forms part of the ministry's plans to fully scale up the sector by the second quarter of 2022. Dr. Matthew Puku-Prempeh said the ministry will soon review the renewable energy licensing situation to benefit industry players.
In recognition of the fiscal constraint facing the energy sector, we have taken decisive actions to address them head-on in order to create a space for low-carbon development initiatives in the country. Government is addressing these and other challenges by committing resources to critical areas of the energy sector and reducing wastage through the implementation of policies such as the cash waterfall mechanism, the energy sector recovery program, as major interventions for rebuilding the foundations for a financially sustainable and efficient energy market. As we restore the sector to fiscal balance, coupled with the positive economic outlook of the country, I believe strongly that renewable energy would flourish Ghana. I appreciate the difficulties market actors here gathered are facing as a result of the moratorium on all power projects activities in this country. We are fast-tracking our actions, particularly renegotiations of existing power purchase agreements, reviewing of the renewable energy licensing situation, and very soon, and I mean very soon, the Ministry of Energy will be announcing new directives to ensure that existing and selected new projects that are bankable in both private and public sectors can move forward.
You heard Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Puku-Prempeh. Market leader GOIL is yet to make changes to prices of diesel and petrol, even though various oil marketing companies in the country have adjusted their prices upwards to suit the latest pricing window in October. Philip Aputiate has been scanning the market and has filed this report.
Some oil marketing companies have adjusted their prices upwards by at least 7% at the pumps. This development comes days after the price stabilization and recovery levies on petrol, diesel and LPG were removed by the National Petroleum Authority for 2 months. While pending the parliamentary approval, the impact is yet to be felt at the pumps. I visited some OMCs to gauge their prices. As of today, Monday, October 18, the prices of petrol and diesel at total had jumped from 6 cedis 30 pesos to 6 cedis 80 pesos per litre. At sell, the price was 6 cedis 42 pesos per litre. At the Allied filling station, both commodities were selling at 6 cedis 45 pesos per litre. I noted, however, that Shell was yet to adjust its prices. Prices were still 6 cedis 52 pesos per litre for both petrol and diesel. For now, the market leader GOIL is yet to effect any changes to its prices at the various outlets. GOIL is still keeping the prevailing price at 6 cedis 52 pesos. The National Oil Marketing Company says it is still monitoring the situation and will alter it by the close of day today.
Gold Company Limited has handed over a 1.7 million cedi modern bus terminal in Cape Coast in the central region to facilitate convenient travel for passengers, to facilitate Intercity STC Limited to improve operations in the Western Corridor. The bus terminal was constructed by GOIL and is being rented out to STC. The project involved the construction and upgrading of the original station to befit the status of the location. At a handing over ceremony, the Group Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of GOIL, Kwame Oseprempe, said the National Oil Company is committed to rendering quality service to the public and commended STC for sticking with GOIL over the years. Let's now cross over to Nigeria from some stories updates in energy.
Central Bank of Nigeria's Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, says Nigerians' import of petroleum products using 30% of its forex can be reversed by the successful commencement of operation at the Dangote refineries. Mr. Emefiele disclosed this during a foreign investors meeting held in New York while answering a number of questions raised by foreign investors. The questions borders around Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves, exchange rates, balance of payments, and countries' increasing foreign debt. Speaking on Nigerians' foreign debts, the CBN governor said Nigeria has ensured that any of its debt due is given utmost priority, particularly foreign debt.
We have ensured that any of our debts due is given utmost priority, particularly foreign debts. It's like first line charge. And the minister talks to me about it, and we ensure that wherever we're going to find the dollar, we will pay any of our debts even before we service any obligation. That is a rule if it is Nigeria's authentic sovereign debt. Now, on the refinery, let me say that the Dangote refinery is a major, by the time the refinery begins production by around June, later July next year, it is going to be a major FX saving source for Nigeria, and I'll explain.
The CBN governor added that the commencement of the Dangote refinery will be a major saver of foreign exchange for Nigeria, while also insisting that Nigerians will benefit greatly from the project.
That's all for Energy Tidbits.
It's all live on Energy 101. Those were Energy Tidbits with Tina Moses. Now, the Renewable Energy Act was enacted to provide for the development, management, utilization, sustainability, and adequate supply of renewable energy for generation of heat and power in an efficient and sustainable manner. The Act also prescribes the establishment and management of the Renewable Energy Fund to provide financial resources for the promotion, development, sustainable management, and utilization of renewable energy sources. But 10 years down the lane, the Renewable Energy Fund is yet to be operationalized. The Ministry of Energy says it will soon roll out new directives to guard existing and new projects within the private and public sectors to help boost the renewable energy industry. This came up at this year's Renewable Energy Fair. My guest tonight is the Secretary of the Association of Ghana Solar Industries, Kwesi Ejinim Boateng. Kwesi, good evening.
Thanks, Sima. Good evening.
Thank you very much for your time tonight. Now, so help us to educate us. When we say renewable energy, what do we mean?
We're talking about all the resources that we have naturally that we can use to generate electricity or power. Basically, we're talking about the likes of hydro, we're talking about the likes of solar, biomass, and the tidal waves, and all those naturally occurring resources that we have. Although nowadays, big hydros are no longer considered as renewable.
Why is that so? Because we've known hydro, in the past.
Well, to be called renewable in the true sense of the word, it must pass certain sustainability. And then if you consider big hydros, and then there is a fossil fuel needed to run the engine somewhere. If you look at the size of that, then it negates some of the gains you would have received if it were truly renewable and sustainable. So that is why they don't capture it as renewable nowadays. Yeah.
All right.
So the International Renewable Energy Agency does this classification, and then for big hydros of a certain size, they don't consider it as renewable.
Now, so over the past years, renewable energy has become, a household name, especially with this energy transition agenda that everybody seems to be talking about. Now, how would you, consider, or to what extent would you say renewable energy, can impact on the energy industry and on national development?
Fantastic. So, over the years in the Western world, the drive to renewable has been driven solely by climate mitigation factors and then sustainable development goals. These are the things that have been the driver in the Western world. But over here in Ghana, I would say that it is purely economics, the driver for our renewable energy projects, and it's purely economics. And then the reality is that it makes sense in certain areas than you would rather do grid electricity. So for us, it has impact for business. So businesses here in Ghana, for instance, would want to reduce their energy bill. And the way to do it, some of them, is to go to renewable. Because in the renewable also, you're able to control your production, your electricity production. For some people, let me give you an example. We are going there, but because you brought it. I'll give you an example of a company that I visited in the industrial area. This company is into plastics. And whenever they are going into their extrusion, where they put in the pellets and the ingots of plastics, and they're going to go through the cycle of production, they switch off ECG.
Okay.
They switch off.
And use renewables.
And no, they use their generator.
Okay.
The reason they do that is because they are able to control the generator. They'll be able to set the voltages they want. But if it is coming from ECG, you don't know what comes. You don't know when the power will go off and things like that. So renewable offers that opportunity as well, because it offers people the ability to generate from their rooftops, from site.
Yeah, but there have been several myths, I would say, surrounding these renewable energy sources. People say that it doesn't. I've heard people say that it doesn't have the potential or the potential to actually generate enough power for industrial use. For instance, like solar and biomass and things like that. Is it comparable to the power, the conventional power sources?
1 kilowatt of electricity from great diesel generator is the same as 1 kilowatt of electricity from solar panel. It is energy. It's like for like.
And so why is it then becoming difficult for industries, like the private sector, to actually switch to renewable usage?
The barrier has been also one of finance. Okay, ability to, because if you're starting renewable energy project or solar installation, for instance, you have to put up that capital for it. No. Until recently that we have had companies that are coming and offering financial solutions through power purchases, leases, and things like that. Nobody would want to generate the power himself and use it, because you look at the payback period, and then sometimes it goes beyond 11 years. But now, with very good financial engineering, people are doing it, and they are breaking even in 4.5 years. So the story has changed. What people used to believe is no more what it is currently.
Now, so we have a renewable energy fund. Even before then, we had an act which prescribed the formation of the fund. Now, I think there was a deadline or a timeline that we should have reached by a certain period. As of now, we've not crossed that. And as of now, the renewable energy fund to help businesses to switch has not also been operationalized. Why is this so?
To my understanding, when we say a fund, there should be 2 or 3 things to make a fund operational. One is the fund management, one is the fund source, and then one is we would say how to sustain it going forward. So these are the key things. I know that the fund is there. The source of the fund is there. It comes. And
it's 10%, is it right?
I would need to check. I don't think it's 10%. It's
a percentage.
It's a percent. It's very low.
Okay.
It's quite low. And there was supposed to be a renewable energy authority, and then the authority will manage the fund.
But we have an authority now. Power Authority, according to the law, has been set up for that.
As a renewable energy authority?
Yes.
No, the renewable energy authority is different. I don't know if they have morphed it into
I think so.
BUI, but my understanding was that the act made mention of a renewable energy authority.
Okay.
Then it means that we will have to go and amend their act that establishes them. It didn't include managing renewable energy fund.
Okay.
Because BUI is not there solely for renewable. they could do anything.
Right.
I think by their act they can do anything.
So under the authority, who is responsible to manage the fund?
Yeah, so if the authority were there, then the authority manages the fund.
Okay.
But currently, I don't know who manages the fund.
It's unfortunate. And so why, is that the main reason why, private sector is finding it difficult to adapt?
So, I mean, I know we will go to the renewable energy fair, but
Yeah.
probably let me jump there. There are barriers to the industry. The reason for the slow uptake could be assigned to a lot of things. Okay, if you look at this year's renewable energy fair, the Energy Commission focused on removing barriers and enabling businesses to thrive.
What are some of the barriers?
Okay, so for me, sitting at the association, the key barrier I see currently we face is regulatory barriers, regulatory and policy mismatch.
Are you speaking for solar industries?
I'm speaking for renewable,
general.
all the renewables. Because let me tell you, in I think 2016 thereabout, there was a moratorium on all power purchase agreements for renewable power. At that time, all the power purchases were for utility scale projects, and the off-taker solely was either ECG or any of the state utilities. And then we came to the understanding that it has been oversubscribed. These were all unsolicited proposals that ECG went through and signed PPAs for some of them. So the government said that, okay, let's put a hold on that and let's sanitize the system. So that opportunity for projects on the utility scale was blocked. Then came what we call the mini grid. So the mini grids, private entities started doing mini grids.
Okay.
And that one too, a ministerial directive came to say that, hold on, private people, you cannot do mini grids. Mini grids should only be led by, it should be a government-led initiative. So it cuts private people out of it. Then came the opportunity where, let's say you have a factory and you want to get your power from renewable. You could go to a solar company and say that, do it for me, and then I pay, just like your mobile unit.
Yeah.
As you use, you pay. So that opportunity was there. And that one too, just last year, it was blocked. Okay. So if you look at this and from an investment point of view, and you are somebody who wants to come into the sector to invest, you consider this policy and regulation as a risk that you must be aware of. So you are careful the way you invest in the sector. So that has been a major barrier.
When you say it was blocked, who blocked it and why?
The minister. So,
what was the reason?
So for, I mean, I've explained for the utility scale, it was oversubscribed. And for me, I don't think even the option where the best approach was to block it. I thought, let's let the forces of competition come to play.
So are you trying to say that it was, because of competition with ECG, that it's why it was blocked?
No, so the utility scale projects, the off-taker was actually ECG.
Okay.
The off-taker was, but ECG had signed so many of them. Now you don't know which to build, and people were still bringing applications to build, and they had signed agreements with ECG. So that's why they blocked it and said,
Okay.
If you want to do solar, don't go to ECG again. Find a private off-taker.
Now, do you think that is a threat to ECG?
It is. I mean, that's the reason why now currently the business with other CNI, we call them commercial and industrial customers, has been blocked is because ECG feels it's a threat. I mean, there's no two ways about it.
Why so?
So ECG has a very interesting structure where we all know that the people that are paying ECG most are the industries. Okay, when you go to industry pay the highest. If you look at all the tariff bands, the bulk consumers, they pay one of the highest, the commercial and the industrial. So ECG feels that these are the people who are paying. So if we allow them to do solar, we lose out.
That's
I mean,
unfortunate.
It's just that. It's plain that. I've said this many times. They don't like it when I say it, but I don't know if we were at a conference. I spoke about it, and I said, it is totally wrong. If you go to the Jubilee House, let me give you an example. If you go to Jubilee House as we speak, Jubilee House has an almost 1 megawatt solar rooftop. You don't see it. It's on their roof.
Okay.
Now, Jubilee House is saving electricity. The cost on electricity, they are saving by installing solar. Now you're telling me that factories cannot do same. I mean, it's
now, have you had occasion to dialogue with ECG authorities, with the powers of the captains of the industry?
Yeah, we have. So the regulator is Energy Commission.
Exactly.
And we sit with Energy Commission. When the new minister came, we wrote letters to the minister. Although we are yet to have the opportunity to meet him, we sent letters since March of this year to meet the minister too. But I mean, other staff of the Ministry of Energy, those who run the renewable, we've been talking with them. And they also appreciate that it's an unfair approach to the industry because Ghana Investment Promotion Council, is this Council or Center? GNPC.
Yeah, Center.
Yeah, they recently brought a report. I saw it at the Renewable Energy Fair when the person in charge of their research showed it, that investment, FDI, for renewable specific has reduced by 90%. If you compare 2019 to 2020, it has reduced. So the impact is being felt rightly on the industry, that these kind of moratorium, vetoes, and ministerial edicts and things like that, it affects the industry so much.
I'm surprised because I know that government, is quite committed to the development of solar. The president, somewhere last year or early this year, commissioned, one of the solar power plants in the North Upper West region.
Yes.
And so this is evidence that...
those are public sector projects. We're talking here private sector project, where you have a factory and you say that I want to install solar. The law says that you must be a bulk consumer of electricity. When you are a bulk consumer of electricity, then you can trade with me. I can come to you, install the solar for you. Okay. You don't need to lock your capital. It's not a capex deal. As you use, you pay. The law allows it. Now, we started doing it, and then all of a sudden, it's blocked. Anyway, let me add that the minister has said that soon and very soon, they will deal with it, and then projects can start.
So did it come up at the Ghana Renewable Energy Fair this year?
It did.
And what exactly was said about it?
It did. As the secretary of the association, you should see the number of text messages and calls I receive from the members who says that the key thing for us is that this is affecting businesses. This kind of moratorium was brought in 2020 when we're in the heat of COVID. Solar projects, the way the cycle is, it has long lead time. We have done promotion, we have done development. Now we have modules, solar panels sitting down to install, and all of a sudden, government says, no, don't go. You see the impact on business. So it came prominently during the Renewable Energy Fair.
Now, so how can it be worked out? Talking about the feed-in tariffs with regards to, or comparing to, ECG's power, how can you fashion out, an appropriate tariff regime so that ECG doesn't fall out, if that is the fear of the power distributor?
We at the association, for instance, have said that, look, when you're doing this kind of solar projects, you need the ECG lines, or not the lines per se. You don't need the lines, but you need the grid.
Exactly.
The grid must be available because you're doing grid tie solar installations. In that case, ECG, come on, why don't you have agreements with companies? Say, because you are using my infrastructure, the fees that we pay to Energy Commission. Now, if you're going to do a megawatt of solar for any company, when I calculated, you must pay about, in a year, I think for the license application, you will not pay less than 50,000 in application fees.
Okay.
Why don't you split it with ECG? Energy Commission, give some to ECG. After all, it is their infrastructure we're talking about. And also, ECG, why don't you also come and play? Instead of being just a distributor, when you have this small company grid, you have these companies who are excited to go with ECG. They trust you. You install for them, and you also play, so you don't lose out. That's my personal approach to it. And also, when it comes to net metering, if the factor of exchange, it's not favorable to you, let's sit down. What favors you?
So how low are the tariffs? Compared to ECG's power distribution for private sector, because we know that the private sector endures so much, cost of power.
So are you asking about the cost?
Exactly,
of
cost of
solar
or
versus
renewable
cost of
energy.
Okay. So I have seen some, who are able to save about 20%.
20%
of the bill that they would have paid to ECG. Some 30%.
That's huge.
Yeah. But because these are grid-tied systems, the entire capacity that you can install cannot exceed 20%.
Okay.
You get the point. So because it's only sun hours that you are generating.
Okay.
So it's just...
Which means that by all means, there should be combination of both.
Exactly.
Solar.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, if we have solar even installed and let's say it's about 1 o'clock and the sun is beaming, in a moment, clouds can come and then go over the surface. At that time, the system goes back to ECG. So always it is alternating.
Is the system not able to store enough power?
No. Grid-tied systems that we have for the C&I sector, the commercial and industrial sector, most of the installations that have been done are grid-tied. No batteries, no storage.
Okay, that's impressive.
No storage.
Now, so what about the argument for energy transition? Did it come up at the fair, and how was it addressed?
See, the way we look at energy transition here in Ghana is driven purely by economics. I mean, the talk about climate change, sustainable development, and all that is good, but in Ghana, it comes to the bottom line. What is the costs? So, although, because they will easily tell you that we have signed power purchase agreements and we have excess capacity, what do you want us to do with it? So that's a reality that we all face. And so we are of the view that leave this thing out for people to decide. When it comes to government has taken a decision. They have what they call the Renewable Energy Master Plan. In the Renewable Energy Master Plan, they have graduated how renewables come in. The first target was 10%. We missed it woefully. We missed it. I mean, and then if we go according to the Renewable Energy Master Plan, there will be a place for renewables and also for fossil-based generation at the same time.
How much are we doing now if we miss the 10%?
I think we are a bit like 2%.
Oh, that's woefully.
Yeah, some say 0.8, but I think it's about 2%.
So apart from the private sector, what about individual domestic usage? I mean, how would you encourage people to also go into the use of renewables in their homes?
Yeah. So always the cost of solar, the initial cost has been a problem for many households. But I can tell you, it's an investment that pays for itself. If you make an investment to install solar in your house with a lifetime of 25 years on your solar panels, in the first 5 years, you even out. The investment, the savings would have paid for itself. But most people don't take their mind to it. So it is ongoing. I must say that during Doomsaw, it was really, really a booming business. After Doomsaw, people's concern for energy conservation and cost saving is not that high. People want to have power at whatever cost. Most people don't mind. But that is the drive.
And so you're saying that it's so reliable that it can power every object?
You should come to my house. When you come to my house, I don't remember the last time I bought ECG prepaid.
Wow.
I don't.
And everything is on solar?
Everything.
So you use your heaters, your irons?
Well, I don't use heaters anyway. I don't have heaters. But I mean, for ironing, fridge, the microwave, the washing machine, everything is fully on solar. I have ECG there, but it doesn't move.
Wow, that's very interesting. So what is the way forward?
I think the way forward is that government should work with the private sector and understand certain variables that affect business. One, when you are doing your business case for a solar, at first our concern was about things like the technology acceptance and all that. Now, the key barrier has moved from those things because the technology is now acceptable. Solar panels have now become a commodity of a sort. And the barrier now is government regulation. Government regulation. I can tell you, I manage a fund, a fund that has over 150 million euro. It's called the African Renewable Energy Fund. And then in the whole of West Africa, we put the office in Ghana because we saw that there is a renewable energy law, there is a licensing regime, there is a formality for going to solar. And you don't find that in other West African countries. So we said that then the climate is good for business. So we put it here. And from Ghana, I manage the other West African countries. But now the story has changed because Ghana is not even moving because of these moratoriums that we put on private people's ability to install solar for their factories.
Wow, that's unfortunate. Interesting conversation, and unfortunately we have to wrap up here. But I would definitely want us to continue another
Always
time
available.
because there's so much to learn and to know about the renewable energy usage. And my guest tonight has been Secretary for the Association of Ghana Solar Industries, Kwesi Ajenim Boateng. You're still live on Energy 101. And last week, the national oil company GNPC confirmed the acquisition of 7% of Cosmos Energy's stake to increase its commercial interest in both the 10 and Jubilee fields. The latest deal has stoked controversy among some civil society organizations and media setups. CEO of the GNPC, Dr. KK Sapong, has been explaining why the GNPC did not opt for much bigger stakes instead of only 7% if it really wants to increase Ghana's stakes in offshore oil production. Dr. Sapon says the GNPC could have ended up in arbitration if it had not been for advice from the Attorney General and the President because of some clauses under the Exploration and Production Law Act 919. He said under the current circumstances, GNPC had to negotiate with Cosmos and was able to up its demand to 7% from the original 5% that Cosmos offered. Dr. Sapon was addressing senior journalists on some of the latest developments within Ghana's upstream petroleum sector over the weekend.
That the P says that if a member, a partner is leaving, you should first of all offer the shares to the other partners. But it excludes GNPC. What we are not, we have a carried interest. We don't have a commercial interest. So the partners who have invested will have the first right of what? Refusal. This one, we had to go around and say that under the new petroleum agreement, which was signed, the 919 Act 919, the GNPC is given a preemptive right. When somebody says I'm buying 750, I can come and say, oh, I can also give you the 750, and then give it. And they fought us. The Attorney General gave an opinion that we could correct. They came back and said, so if it is going to go to arbitration, of course, the President is a very senior man. We saw the reason I said, let's see what we can get. So it was a kind of negotiation to take some. Originally, they offered 5. Originally, Cosmos said, let us buy. When we finish, we'll sit down and talk. I said, no. That's what that one day, you can't convince me. After I've signed off, I said, you said to me, what can I do? They offered 5, and the President asked us to push. We got 7. There was word that some people offered 10, and others offered 8, and we didn't take. You see, maybe my training is different. We did a tender, open. You are not the winner. When you know the winner's proposal, then you come and offer something. It's not wrong. I mean, it's ethically wrong. It's not ethical. So we could use our bulldoze our way and things, but the seller will normally do due diligence, and they will come and tell you that I've seen a red flag somewhere. I've never seen the red flag, but they always say that there's a red flag somewhere. And they are not obliged to disclose that one to you. And then sometimes you also have to be smart. This is an American company selling to an American company. Staying in America is like geopolitical. So a lot of pressures went in. So I think the secretary goes, it's not bad. It's the first step. When we get another one apart. Yeah. No, it's not free. You pay. What government has done is the tax due is being used to pay. And then we GNPC will sell the group and pay the tax. So it's not free. It's the issue of capital gains. But it was GNPC who flagged the issue of possible tax advantage. And then it's really, see, the agreements were signed those days. Gave away too much. But just like something in Guyana, if you don't get somebody to de-risk the risk, So usually those who have the first agreements have things easy. Now we learned when I was negotiating precisely what the number of negotiations. So I paid for paper hours better earlier agreements. So the capital gains in 2000 government said eventually Anadaku decided to negotiate the way out. Maybe I won't pay all the things, the amount you're asking for. But I'm sure government also, in any court case, you want to assess your chances, whether you will win or not. And say that, well, let me cut possible loss, even I'm not too sure. All the lawyers are giving different opinions. You never can tell what the client is. And therefore, you are better off saying, okay, maybe if you give me half of it, you can write a bit. I think they did a good deal. Which is that's about it. Yeah. Then Elvis, why didn't we buy from this first? See, let me be honest, when they offered to pack that not age. It's one thing finding money to buy, and one thing raising the money to be able to receive it. From where I see, it's obvious that even if I had the money to buy, I'll buy and hold it till I get another thing to buy. How long will that be? You understand? So, we need to always need to make a very pragmatic decision. See, yes, it came off. They said it was 100 million or 200 million. Nobody knows what other behind the scenes arrangement has made. For me, it doesn't make sense to me that you spend about 900 million or 100 million. Maybe it's like a deal on the tax. When you finish and you pay, they get a tax out of this. Nobody knows. These international companies need to work to understand what they do. But here, even if we had the money to buy, I'm asking myself whether GNPC would have found the 300 million or so to do the further work in terms of exploration and what appraisal and drilling the further work, which on the sheet for the 2 plots, put there another 400 million or so. So it's, we pay 100 million, find another 400 million. If we've done the assessment or whatever, maybe again, we are very good in exploration or appraisal. After that, next. Where will we raise the money? The 1.5 billion or 2 billion to be there. So if you know that it cannot be done, it will not be done the extra in your budget, then it will better organize the private sector to come. So that is the way, for me, it wasn't a mistake. Now that we are very certain of what is there, and there could be other means of finance. Now that everybody wants to support EXPO to go out there, GNPC to go out there and borrow, then even that, I'm only paying a small portion of the cost. So we need to be very careful how we structure some of these things. That's why I say that you can do what I call negotiations, which is very fine on paper. There are many of the blocks, very, very fine on paper. Now we get about 50%, 60%. That no activity happens.
And you hear the CEO of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, Dr. KK Sapon, talking about some of the thorny issues surrounding the latest acquisition of 7% of Cosmos stake in 10 and Jubilee Fields. And that's it for Energy 101. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Thank you very much for your company, and do join me again same time next week for more interesting developments in the world of energy. Have a good evening.